you don't necessarily have to be the injury victim to make a claim under this dram shop provision. And that's General Obligations Law 11-101, just FYI. Cases I've had involved the surviving family members of those killed because they were overserved. One of the most involved and really just kind of the craziest set of facts in a case that I had occurred well over 20 years ago when I first came up to the Hudson Valley after working in the city for a while. It involved a young man who was run over by a train, a freight train, in fact. And it came to pass that he was quite drunk at the time he found himself on the tracks. There was some dispute between the parties as to why he was on the tracks, but we don't have to get into those facts for the purposes of this conversation. But ultimately, I had to come up with evidence to show that he was overserved when he was already drunk. And the first deposition I took in that case was actually conducted inside a prison. And it was conducted of a bouncer at the particular bar he was at, that is, the dearly departed was at, on the night that he died. Now, the bouncer was incarcerated for reasons that had nothing to do with this particular case, but nonetheless, I had to get the evidence, I had to get the testimony that he had to offer, which was indeed probably the most damning and most important information that was elicited in the entirety of pretrial discovery. And there were a number of depositions and there were a number of documents exchanged in that case. But that bouncer essentially testified that when the dearly departed show up, he was definitely drunk. He was mumbling and stumbling and slurring and all the classic telltale signs of someone who'd been drinking already. And then, yes, he was served. I forget how much, but he was served more when he was already in that condition. And when he left this particular bar is when he made his way toward the tracks, presumably going home. And then naturally all hell broke loose. My clients in that case, though, were not the estate of the victim who got hit by the train. It was actually his infant child and his father. And that's a peculiarity to this particular statute. People who are injured in their means of support by reason of overservice of alcohol to someone who has passed away also is a cause of action. Or in plain English, people who were relying on someone who was killed because they were overserved have a case against the place in which they were overserved. The person killed themselves or the person injured as a result of being overserved does not have a case in that instance. You basically can't benefit from your own, say, carelessness, if you will. But the family members do have that cause of action. They, of course, were not party to any of the sale or the transactions to buy booze when it should never have been served in the first place. So that is something that's a little, unusual, a little different than just a common negligence claim, something that evolved because the legislature made it so. They wrote that into the law. That's different than someone who just has a common negligence case in other instances. We, without getting into too many details in that train case, that one did successfully resolve. The client was very, very happy under the circumstances, of course, as happy as they could be. And it was just kind of like my shining personal example of how involved these overservice cases can really get. So where do we see this type of scenario more often these days? Well, we've had some big cases. I remember the news that Penn State hazing case involved alcohol, and a lot of kids that I believe were being given a lot of alcohol when they shouldn't have, and there was a death. So fraternity parties, college parties, where there's likely to be a number of underage people, those situations can kind of give rise to when you might encounter something like this. And let's be honest, in some circles, there's a relaxation amongst people where it's not uncommon to have, you know, kids and their friends drinking openly in front of parents. And I know parents might be thinking they have the situation under control. They took everyone's keys, for example, but you know, kids being kids, sometimes they can find other ways to get themselves in trouble. So if you know someone who's been hurt by a situation like this, where an underage kid who was drinking and shouldn't have hurt somebody or hurt you, then that would be a reason to call me. That would be a reason to, you know, consult me and get into this further so we can try and develop, you know, any potential recovery options for you. But keep that in mind, please. And, you know, by all means, check out my videos and my links online for other information that might bear on the situation.